Good morning. Oh my god, I just learned how to lock the I don't even know what it's called, but I just figured out how to do something with my camera, so hopefully the color and the lighting is going to stay the same for the whole video. I heard someone talk about it on TikTok, but they have an iPhone and I am an Android user. So I was like, I'm not sure my phone can do that, but it can, and it just did. Anyway, good morning. It is the morning. I've been struggling to find the time to film because, I like to come out to my car and have some like privacy and peace. It gets dark super early, and also I've been having to like do things and go places. And I've also been sick, so I wasn't able to talk very much, or it would have been like very unpleasant to listen to. Today, I'm going to be doing part 2 of reading my dream stories. These are going to be from about August last year to the latest one is the first day of January this year. Hold on. I tried to pick stuff that had like a narrative, but a lot of my dreams lately have been kind of like choppy, or like I'm really in them, and then as soon as I wake up, they're sort of like pulled apart in my mind. They like, how there's this like dream logic that holds everything together, and when you wake up, it's sort of like torn to shreds. I've been having a lot of those kind of dreams lately, as opposed to stuff that's very like, this happened, then this happened, then this happened. I went here, and then I went here, and then I went here. This one is more like a story or a narrative. It's more like clear. Sometimes I write stuff down, and like looking back on it, I'm like, what did I mean? But like in the moment, I understood what it was because I had just woken up. But here it is. So there was some kind of alien invasion, but it wasn't exactly hostile yet. The like alien creatures, they weren't like solid. They were sort of just like energy or like shapes that would just they were just there. They weren't threatening in any way. They were just there. And I think I was having this thought because I was listening to someone talk about the anime Evangelion before I went to bed, and talk about like Adam and Eve, like seeds or whatever. And I was just like, okay, I've never seen it, so I don't know anything about it. I know they fight in that show, but whatever. I guess I was just thinking about like the seeds of life, or like what is consciousness, or like what is a life form. But that was just kind of like going on in the background. It didn't affect anything, except I don't know if I was living in a school like place, or if I was just like, that was the only place I was in my dream. But it was me, a friend of mine from college who I know in real life, and these two guys who, one of them I sort of recognized as like maybe a past classmate, and the other I really didn't know. And we were sort of, the four of us were like grouped together, and we were in this school, and we were all apparently we're all close. One of the guys was named Van Ness, and the other guy didn't have a name. I don't know why it was Van Ness, but it was me, my friend Van Ness, and this other guy. Van Ness came up to me and he was like, hey, we're gonna have a surprise party for the other dude, and him and my friend were going to plan like specific tasks. Like each of us had a specific job. He told me what mine was, and I was writing it down. And I don't really know what my specific job was, but I think I was in charge of like a gift. So I was making like a big like photo album, or like some kind of scrapbook. And I had to like write or like compile like things or pictures. And I had this like big leather binder for him. we jumped to the day of. So my friend went upstairs to set some things up in a different classroom, and we were also going to watch a movie in this like little party that we were having. So I was thinking like, oh, we need to make sure we have a projector. So I followed her after a few minutes, but I didn't know exactly which direction she went to, and I was in this like big hallway, and everything, the lighting was very dim and not dark like it was like scary, but it was just like dim. So everything was like if it was daytime but you turn the lights off in a school. So like there's light from the windows coming from the classrooms, but in the hallway it's like there's not enough light to reach to like really light it up. So I was standing in the hallway and I was looking at both ends because there were like these sets of stairs at both ends. And I was looking like side to side to like see like hoping she would come down and I would like know which direction to go in. Logically thinking about it now, like both stairs should have led to the same place, but so I was trying to get a clue, and I started walking in one direction because I was just like, I'll just pick one. But the whole time I was looking to the other side to like see if I could see her. And then she did come down the stairs and she did appear, and I like ran over and I was like, oh, this way. I ran over to her and we spoke briefly, and she told me where the room was, so I went upstairs and I found it. Just like in the hallway, in the upstairs room, everything was dim, but it was like comfortable dim. Like we knew we were gonna like set up a projector. There were either desks pushed together to make a big table or like just a long table. And there were those like the metal chairs that they have in schools that are like really heavy. There were like a bunch of those. So there were these long tables and a bunch of chairs, and it kind of seemed like they were set up that way to begin with. Like they're always set up that way because there were basically all the like tables or desks and chairs were set up as if there were like 20 people were going to sit there or something, as opposed to just 4. And for a tablecloth, we had just like unrolled but still connected paper towels. Like if you take a roll of paper towels and instead of tearing them off, just like unroll it so it's one long sheet. And there were like 4 like personal size like ovular like pizzas, and they were like very fancy, even though we just had like paper towels and no plates and like no anything. And there were 2 rolls of paper towels that were like sat up on the table, and they were both like quite full. There were like 2 or 3 of them, and they were like almost like brand new rolls. But the last piece on the end of them was like a little bit like wet or greasy, or like a little bit soiled, but they hadn't been pulled off. Like if you got your hands dirty and then just like touched the end of the roll. So everything was a little bit like messy and like not super like put together, but the vibe was very nice. And yeah, the vibe was just very, very nice. Like it was very like warming to like walk into that room. And the projector was on, and it was like very faintly playing like some something like almost like screensavers, like just like flickering some film. Like it was the ambiance was very like vibey. And I was like mentally sort of like deciding like where each of us was going to sit. Like, oh, I'll sit over there, and the like celebrant, he'll sit there, and then my friend will sit there, and Van Ness will sit at this spot. Mentally I picked where my seat was. So while I was there, I was just like, okay, let me clean up a little bit. I grabbed like two dirty pieces of paper towel, and like threw them out. And I was just like spiffing stuff up. But I was also thinking to myself, like, kind of like anxiously, like, oh, I don't want to like get in the way of like the other two people who are doing this, or like, I don't know. I had these like anxious thoughts, like, oh, don't like do too much. Don't go overboard trying to like change stuff or like fix stuff. It was kind of stressful, but like very exciting. Like my friend came back, and Vanessa came up, and we all knew, like, oh, this person's going to love that we did this. Like, they're going to be really, really excited and happy that we did this. The guy Vanessa, he sat down, and he started eating some of his pizza, and mentally I was thinking, like, shouldn't we wait? But also I was thinking, like, oh, I should eat too. So I sat down and I took a slice, but as I was like taking it and like holding it, I was looking at my hand, and I was looking at like the bite that was taken out of it, and I felt like this isn't my hand. Or, you kind of, I don't know if this has happened to other people, but I have had experience where I'm looking at my hands, and like I dissociate from them, like they stop being my hands. So I looked at myself suddenly, and I was like, is this me? And then I woke up. So we didn't get to see, I'm assuming it was a birthday, but it was never in my mind like, oh, this is his birthday. But I never got to see that other guy's reaction to like this celebration that we had. And this friend of mine who was in my dream, whenever people are in my dream, I tell them, especially if I feel like the vibe was really positive, because like I'm a little bit spiritual, and I know it doesn't always mean something to someone, but if it does mean something to someone, they enjoy to hear about like, oh, you're in my dream and I feel like something good is going to happen to you. You know what I'm saying? So I told my friend about that, and we had a nice conversation. And okay, this one is from September. I was at like a body of water, like a big river or something like that, and the water was very, very clear, and I was standing at the very, very edge, and I looked down, and there were these like huge, not huge really, like fish can get huge, but like maybe like that big, like they were like chunky. These big like rainbow colored like shimmering fish. And they were swimming in the water. And it seemed like they were kind of intelligent, and like they were all going to a specific place because they were all swimming in one direction. And they looked very intentional. And I was looking down, and I didn't have any shoes on. I was just wearing these like rainbow socks that I have that are my favorite socks, or they were at the time. And there was one fish in particular that was taking an interest in me and was like swimming against the grain and of the other fish and like trying to get to me. And then the fish like jumped forward and took a bite out of my sock. And I was really shocked, and I like stepped back, and I was like, how could you do that? Like, I was so mad. And I looked at the fish, and I noticed it was like the exact same colors of the sock that I was wearing. But like the emotion that was really emphasized was that I was mad. And like even when I woke up, I was still mad. All right, next one. So me and my sister were both driving like to the same place, but we were in separate cars. She was in her car and I was in mine. And I think I was imagining her car as like, I don't know what she drives right now, but I was imagining it as something different than like at least what I last saw her in. But we were in separate cars. We were going to the same place. I think we were going to the movies because I recognized the parking lot. And then later in the dream, we were in a movie theater. But I don't know if that was the like original intention. I sort of like put that together when I woke up. But we were in separate cars and we both parked, and we both parked like insanely bad. Like the worst parking I have ever done in my life. So we were sort of like figuring it out and like finagling, like, okay, you go here and I'll go here, you do this and I'll do that, whatever, whatever. And we got parked, but it was like it was like so much more of a hassle than it needed to be or than it should have been. So we went inside, we were in this movie theater, and the like escalators were turned off. Like where we were at, it was like you walk into the lobby, you go up the escalators, and that's where you can like buy your tickets, snacks, whatever. So the escalators were turned off, and they were like blocked off with not literally velvet rope, but like that was the vibe. Like they're blocked off because it was like a special privilege to get on them. And like my sister had told me like, okay, this is for, not that she told me, it was more she just like went over there and like had the understanding that like it was for us, like we were the ones who had this like special privilege to use the escalators. There was like a sign or something that was blocking it, and she like moved it over, and like it turned on and we went up. And as we were doing this, other people were sort of like causing a ruckus because there was a second escalator, and they were like turning it so that it would go up or go down. So some people were trying to go up and some people were trying to go down, and they kept like flipping the direction it was going. But we were just vibing on our own personal escalator, just kind of like looking at them. Then there was sort of like a time jump, and we were in the theater itself, like in our seats, and we were watching the movie. Then this lady like came up to us, and she said, she told us to transcribe the movie, like write down everything that was happening and everything everyone was saying, because she wanted to make 2 versions of the script or something like that. And then she left, and the movie started over again. It was Grease kind of, but it was underwater, and there was something that would teleport blast people like Team Rocket with a big rainbow. I don't know what that is. But apparently it was a musical, so I was trying to write down all the dialogue and the sound lyrics, and it was like really hard, and it was going really fast. And that's sort of where things ended. Okay, next one. I was going to California. It was like planned and decided I was going to California. And I told my dad that I was going and I was going to fly. And speaking of, I've never been in an airplane, so I guess this would have been my first time, like in the dream would have been my first time. In the dream I didn't get to the plane, but like just personal lore, I guess. So I told my dad I was flying to California, and he was telling me that I should drive and not like spend money on a plane. And immediately that stressed me. Like him saying that stressed me out like so bad. And I was like, I can't do that. I don't drive on freeways. I can't drive like through all these states across the whole country. I don't have the time to do that. Like I can't do that. And I was also like looking things up on the internet to like validate what I was saying, like the distance from like this place to this place, and how much time it would take. And I was trying to type it into Google, like the distance between my city and California or wherever. But I kept having like typos where like I couldn't make the words, like I couldn't spell. And I was getting like more and more angry as I was trying to write, and it wasn't making coherent words. But eventually I did look up how long it would take to drive to California on like Reddit. And I was looking somehow at a video of myself, or more like just a thumbnail, like on a Reddit post. And I like scrolled down to the comments, and no one was answering my question. They were just saying things like, she's made her mind up already, like why is she even asking? And other like slightly rude, like condescending, like dismissive comments where they were like, don't like don't even ask these questions, you know what you're going to do already. So I just like abandoned the search. And looking back at it now, I'm finding much more meaning in that dream, because at the time I was just annoyed, but now thinking about it, I am like, if I've decided something and I have all my plans in place, I know it's the better option. I do not need to validate that to someone else who's just thinking about it in theory and who doesn't like, they don't know my plan. So as I was going like through this whole debacle, I look out a window and I see there's a child sitting in like, I think it was the driver's seat, but it could have been the passenger seat. But he's sitting in this giant like pickup truck, like this giant black truck in my driveway. And he's parked like as if they pulled in like backwards and drove all the way to the back so that like the car was pointing towards the street. Someone being in your driveway is like, there's like a sense of like violation in it, or like, why are you here? You shouldn't be here. But I was also like weirdly empathetic to like this kid not wanting to park on the street, but at the same time, like, you can't be here. And it's not like my street is super busy or like there's never a place to park. So I went outside and I was like, hey, who are you? Why are you here? And he told me his name, but I didn't retain it. And I was just like, fine, you can like be here for a little bit. And while this was happening, there were suddenly a bunch of people just like entering like the property, like climbing in like over fences and into the backyard and into like the neighboring yards by me too. Like I was just looking and there was just like waves of people that were just like coming up through the backyards. There was one couple that even had like a baby or like a toddler, and they like took their toddler inside of my house. So I was just like watching what they were doing because you're in my house, like that's weird. And they were just acting like this was like a normal thing to do. At one point I saw another person on rollerblades, and seeing that made me think like, oh, I want to go skating. But now, because all these like throngs of people had appeared, like they had totally like crowded up the street, they were just like meandering. I went to a different street nearby the direction everyone was coming from. No one knew me there, but it was like the whole thing was just an idea that I was having. And I do kind of remember that feeling of like, like grabbing my skates, walking over to this place that's like this street that's like perpendicular to my street, not really knowing anyone there, or no one really knowing me there. And now I was like this like person who was just this like weird person who was just in the street. And then suddenly I like jumped back and I was like back in my house, like back looking out the window. Okay. I had this one dream. I was in a mall and I was with like two people from my middle school who like I actually hate. I was with these two people from my past who I like actually hate, and I would never like purposely go anywhere with them. So the two of them were like fighting. Like one actually like put the other in a headlock, and I was like so tired. Like, oh my god, why are you guys doing this? And my teeth were falling out. So it was like so many teeth. It was like 30 teeth, but in my mouth, I still had all of my molars. So I was like spitting out all these teeth, and I was like, how do I have so many teeth? I was trying to like get a hold of my mom and like get her to call like the the place where I had my wisdom teeth removed. And I was like count at the same time like counting out, trying to count all my teeth, but I kept getting like messed up or like jumbled up, and I just kind of like zoned out into a wakefulness. Okay, I I don't think I've ever actually had like sleep paralysis, but if I ever did, then that would be this time. It happened in October. I was lying on my back and I was like sleeping, and in the dream also I was like lying down. I was in my room. I was like either sleeping or prepared to sleep, but there was someone or something that was crouched on top of me. But it was like this all black like figure, like all darkness. Like the room was dark and this thing was darker, and it was crouching on top of me, and it was my arms were like pinned like this, and it was crouching onto my forearms, and it had claws, and it was like it was like the claws on its feet were like digging into my thighs and into my arms. So I was just like this, and this person or entity or whatever was talking to me. Like it was looking into my face and trying to speak to me, but I just heard like gurgles and like grumbles. And I had my headphones on, these ones. I had my headphones on and my arms were pinned, so I was trying to listen to it. It had this like deep, like demonic like voice, and I couldn't understand at all what it was saying, but I knew it was trying to tell me something like important. And in my headphones I was hearing like crystal sound baths, because that's what I listen to go to sleep sometimes. I'll like play it off my phone in my nightstand, so I was just hearing like the crystal sound, and like singing bowls, and it was too loud. So I was able to like wrench my headphone out of my ear, but even then, like this thing, it was looking at me. It was turning its head like from side to side, speaking to me, like grumbling and growling, and I like could not understand what it was trying to say. And then I guess I woke up, or it just disappeared, but I was awake. And when I woke up, I was of course like very scared, and like my arms and legs hurt. I was wearing a big like cushioned sleeping mask, and I was like afraid to take it off because I was thinking like, oh, something's going to be in my room. But immediately I turned to my side to lay on my side so that something couldn't like lay on top of me again. And I got my mask off, and you know, I figured it out. But I was really like unsettled, so I got up and sort of like shook the fear off, like wiped myself down, sprayed some like Florida water to like protect me, say a little prayer, all that like sort of stuff, before I tried like going to sleep again. And I was just like like projecting like as much as I could, like this energy, like I don't want it. Don't, like, if you have a message for me, like don't send it this way. Like, okay, the next one's from early December. So I was standing in my attic, and again I was looking out the window, and the not literally the house next to mine, but in my dream there was a house or a property next to mine, and there was a guy who had a lot of like exotic animals in his backyard, and he also had like 3 or 4 like big above ground pools, like all sort of next to each other. It was raining like super heavy, and there was a shark in his pools who was like swimming like really fast and like jumping from pool to pool. And he had like a grizzly bear, like a big brown bear, or I don't know if the difference between like a brown bear, a black bear, and a grizzly bear, sorry, but he had a bear. And the bear was like standing up on it like 2 feet, looking into the pools, like mesmerized by the shark. The shark at the same time was sort of like, I sort of got the vibe that the shark and the bear wanted to fight. But this man, he was like kind of like older, like heavyset. I think I could see him like balding in the back. Kind of like, not like super muscular, but like a strong looking, like built dude. I'm trying to think if this is someone who I might have known from one of my first jobs, but I don't know. But this man, he was getting in between, he like got in between them. He like was confronting the bear. He was like, hey, stop. You know how people do with animals? Like clapping at it and like yelling. And like I said, it was raining super heavy. This guy, he was wearing like a short sleeves and like shorts and slides. But it was raining super heavily, and it was fogging up my windows. And I was trying to see because I knew something like was going to happen. So I was like going from, there were these 2 windows side by side, and I was going from window to window, like trying to look where I could get the better view. I was like, oh, how do I turn on the wipers? You know how in a car there's window wipers? I was looking for the wipers to like, for this attic window to like clear off the rain and the fog so I could see like what was going on. But obviously houses don't have those. But I found a like clear off like corner where I could watch, and I like crouched into it, and I was looking out the window. I was watching, and the bear, it turns away from the shark and picks up like, I wrote a deer-like creature. So something like a deer. This bear like picks it up and bites it on the leg, which not how bears work, but go off. And the man got in between the bear and this other animal again, and was like shouting, like pointing. I looked away, I guess, looking for like wipers again. And when I looked back, this bear was like, the bear had bitten this guy and was trying to swallow him. That's what I have written down, but in my memory, I feel like it was the shark that jumped out and tried to bite him. I knew that the shark kind of had like an intention to like jump out and like attack this guy, or that's what I was afraid was going to happen, but I'm not sure. I had this dream that it's more of like a concept than like a story, so to speak, but it's of a tooth fairy. But when they take your tooth, they leave you some money, like $1, and also a piece of paper with a complex math equation on it that they've solved. And it's not like they do your homework for you or anything like that. They're just showing off. Like, so the image that I had in my head was like a bed with like blue sheets and a blue pillow, and like lifting it up and seeing like $1 and like this really complex like math formula and just being like, wow. All right, here's the last one, and I think probably the weirdest one. So I was driving down like a pretty crowded street. I think there were cars parked on both sides and then two lanes but going the same direction. So I was driving and someone did like, I just have someone did something weird with their car. But I understood what they were trying to communicate to me was they needed some kind of help. So I stopped my car. I was able to pull over. Like, there was a spot like on the curb I could pull over to. And we stopped in front of a building. And our cars disappeared. And on the road was kind of like empty or like emptier now. This man was standing there, and in front of him was a big casket. And he told me inside there was his grandmother. And he had to bring her into this like building that was on the corner here. So for some reason I decided this was my problem. And I picked up the casket, and it was very light. Like, I was holding it from the top like a briefcase, like somehow for some reason. And as we were walking towards this building, I could hear that there was something moving around inside, like knocking from side to side, but it didn't seem like there could have been a body in there. So this building, on the front door, it had a sign, and I could see the words, but as I was trying to read them, the only thing I could make out was in quotes, freebie. Somehow I wasn't able to read the rest of the words on the sign, but regardless, we went inside, and there was another elevator, and an older woman and a younger woman came in with us into the elevator. And I understood, like, innately that this was this man's family. They were his family members, maybe his mom and his sister. I didn't know what floor we had to go to. There were 3 floors, and I pressed 1, 2, and 3, just to, like, check them all out. And we started going down. We were on the ground floor, but somehow we went down and appeared, like, at the top floor. And the doors open. Outside the elevator, we were all inside, and I was inside looking out. I could see there was like a little like hallway, like entryway. There was another door that was sort of like offset, so I couldn't see like perfectly into this room, but I could see like through this second doorway there was a fancy bedroom, and outside there was through in the bedroom there was a window, and outside the sky was very like dusky blue, like sunset-y. And there was piano music playing that was coming from this hallway that we were in front of. It seemed like it was like towards the left. It was coming from there. And I could also partially see like there was a white couch like in a room like off some like towards the left side. The whole family told me like, don't get off on this floor. They were like, just stand still, like don't go. Like, the piano, it didn't sound like it was a recording, or it didn't, not like it didn't sound like, more like I knew it wasn't. I knew there was a living person or some being that was in that building or apartment that was playing the piano currently. So when they all told me don't get off on this floor, I was like, oh, this person is dangerous. So I had my phone in my other hand. I opened like a group chat, and I was like telling people about what was happening. And someone in the group messaged me and said that I have a knack for imagining places, but they said it in a specific way where it was like not creepy, but like odd places. But I felt like kind of flattered by that. Or like, you know when someone tells you something that you didn't really like know about yourself, and you're like curious, or you're like, oh, that's interesting. Like, not exactly a good feeling, not exactly a bad feeling, just like, oh, that's interesting that you think of me that way. That was how I was feeling. Overall, I knew they meant it as a compliment, so I was like, okay. But it also made me think, like, wait, imagining? am I imagining this? And then that's what woke me up. The sort of like recurring themes that I've had, I have now had 2 teeth falling out dreams. So, fun. I have had like scary monster nightmare. I don't know if it counts as sleep paralysis because I feel very distinctly I was dreaming that I was awake. And not like, I think I was just dreaming of sleeping, which is kind of weird. You know what, actually, looking back at all of my dreams that I shared today, I feel like the overarching theme is that I'm freaking stressed out, which I am, but the sort of like very specific feelings are of being in a crowded place versus being in a very empty place, being stressed out or like anxious over a social interaction, or like what am I supposed to do about this or in this moment, and moving through spaces like the escalators and the elevators, driving, taking planes, like moving between spaces. So I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I'm going to reflect on it more now. All right. Okay, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed hearing some of my dreams. If you want to share some of your dreams in the comments, please do. Or let me know if you found them interesting or relatable. If you like the video, please like the video. And see you next time. Bye!